episode of 13 Rings, an NFC East podcast. I'm your host, Lucas, with Mal, Maurice, and Earl. And we have a very special guest yet again. We have Dan of Thunder and Lightning Podcast, the Giants podcast, and he's also the producer of Blonde Blitz Podcast. Dan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast with us.
No problem. Thank you for having me. How's it going, guys?
Going pretty good.
Dan!
Good.
I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you for having me. What's up?
Of course. Nothing, the usual.
So if it wasn't clear, Dan and Mal know each other outside of the podcast.
Dan is one of my favorite people in the entire world, just so all of you know.
Yeah.
No, outside of us three guys, right?
Yes, outside of you three guys, Dan is one of my, and Kyle, yes, one of my favorite people.
Awesome. So we're going to start off the pod with Mal and Dan just chatting it up. Go ahead, guys.
What's up?
Oh, hey, what's up, Dan?
Not much. What's going on?
Nothing much. All right, so Dan, tell us about your football background and what got you into the New York Giants.
Football background, it was pretty easy. I started really playing football around 7th grade in middle school. But my family has always liked football, and obviously the Giants being the local team, that's the team we always gravitated towards. My great uncle had Giants season tickets since Yankee Stadium, so that's easily the 50s.
Yankee Stadium, rep.
Yeah, Yankee Stadium, so easily in the 50s and 60s, and it was just one of those traditional brought down to generation. Then once really 8th grade started was the 2000 Giants. So as everybody knows who is a Giant fan, that was the year they won the NFC Championship. Unfortunately lost the Ravens in the Super Bowl, but that was really a fun year to get my holy crap, I'm a fanatic of the New York Giants. And ever since then, a very long time, it really feels weird. It feels like it was yesterday, but when you're like looking back at it, it's basically 24 years ago. So yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I hear ya. Especially 24 years ago, like I was only born in 96 and I'm 27.
Oh,
so
thank you for making me feel old.
Yeah, no problem. But I got another question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
So why did you start as the producer for Blonde Blitz Pod and host of Thunder and Lightning?
Well, funny you said. I became friendly with my co-host and partner Nikki Jess, and she got approached the idea to host a all-female podcast. So I went with her, and I thought it would be a cool idea to learn how to produce. Obviously, since I'm not blonde or a female, that wasn't going to work for me as well. But her and her co-host Deb are been wonderful. We survived and had a great first season, so it's going to be fun for year 2. As for Thunder and Lightning, as everybody knows, my passion for the Giants was still going to be itching, so I still wanted to talk G-Men, and Nikki had the time for me to talk Giants, so we basically turned that into a Giant / food take and entertainment type of show. So if you're looking into having a Giant conversation for the first half of the show and some fun after the first half of the show, I highly recommend it. Mal was a co-host for me for at least 2 times, and I really appreciate it. Did you have fun the 2 times I had you on?
I loved it. And also I want to tell everyone that Nikki is one of the best people I've ever met, and her and Dan have such great chemistry. So it is such a great show to watch. So if any of you guys want to watch that show, Thunder and Lightning, incredible. Nikki has some horrible food takes.
Yeah, see, that's
fine.
What the funny thing is about with Nikki is her food takes are so bad, and she's just so straight edged onto what's going on with her own like La La Land with her food takes that she makes my simple dinners like are crazy to her, and it's like I'm just as picky, but you make me look like I eat everything. So I thank you for that. So.
Oh, listen, like we are on the same page with food, and I love it. And I also love Nikki, but I also want to ask you, Dan, what is your favorite Giants memory? As a fan, what is your favorite memory?
See, that's a tough one. I could give you like 20, rattle off 20. Obviously Super Bowl 42 was great. Obviously, Super Bowl 46 was great. I think I would have to say for my first lasting memory would be the NFC Championship game in 2000. No one thought they were going to beat the Vikings. Randy Moss, Dante Culpepper, and then they just unloaded on them 41-0. And that was the real, like, yeah, man, we're going to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, 8th grade me didn't realize how good the Baltimore Ravens were. So
the Ravens.
I had a rude awakening 2 weeks later, but it was still a really fun season. But of course, all the Eli era, pretty much all the good moments from Eli's era, I can't pick one, but I guess I would have to go Super Bowl 42 is my highlight of my life. Definitely, other than getting married and having 2 kids, that was my best night of my life.
Oh, yeah, no, I'd have to agree. I was probably in 42. What year was that? 2012?
07.
07. So I was a little...
I was 20.
I was 11.
I didn't turn 20 yet, but I was going to be 20, and it was my peak college years, and I was just like, yeah, I'll come back next time and talk about how crazy that story is. But yeah.
Yeah, I was 11, and I can agree that was crazy. But what is who is your favorite Giants player of all time? All time.
All time. Obviously, you're gonna say Eli. I have Eli's number tattooed to my leg.
Yes.
I would have to go Eli or Strahan. Strahan was one of those guys you first gravitate to when you're watching football, and obviously being a Giant fan, he's always mic'd up. He always had something to say, and he was always funny about it. I remember having a Giants DVD, and one of the bonus features was him mic'd up against an Eagle game. I don't remember the outcome of that game, but him just running his mouth the whole entire game, and it's just like, it's a tie between Eli and Strahan. Those would be my 2 guys. An honorable mention would be
Eli is up there in like your all time.
Yeah, why wouldn't he be?
I mean, yeah, he won us 2 Super Bowls, but I don't know.
Ooh, so hang on. Reiterate your point just one more time. Make sure that I understand it.
Who, Dan?
Yeah, Dan.
What's there to reiterate about Eli? He's won 2 Super Bowls. He played every game other than getting benched. So I mean, what's not to love about Eli?
I mean, I feel you. I totally feel you. And personally, my favorite player is Strahan, but I have a big hole in my heart for defense. So that's why I love Strahan so much.
Fair enough.
But Dan, let us know any Giants thoughts you want to share. Current, whatever you want. Let us know.
Yeah, no. I guess mine is, it's really going to be interesting to see what happens the next few weeks with free agency. With the draft, it hasn't been a secret apparently at Indy that the Giants are looking to trade up to get a quarterback most likely. So it's going to be interesting to see how much they would have to give up to get the quarterback they want if a team is listening to them. So.
All right, awesome. So thank you so much, Dan, for giving your thoughts. Let's talk about the team news for the Giants. So Saquon potentially was looking for a trade to the Texans. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't want Saquon to leave. I've always been a big Saquon supporter. He is the face of our franchise. But in the end, if he finds his team that he wants to go to win a chip, as long as it's not within the division, sorry, Earl, because the most projected team that he's about to go with in the division is Cowboys. I don't want that.
It could happen.
I want to run it back in the draft anyway.
Oh,
yeah,
I
don't think the Cowboys have money anyway.
They don't, but you never know, because Jerry can always pull a trick up his sleeve. I don't want Saquon in the division. I would rather honestly cry myself to sleep. So.
I mean, Mal, I'm just saying we have over $100 million.
You're not getting Saquon.
Yeah, I
You're
know.
not getting him.
I just like teasing, No, we're pretty happy with Brian Robinson.
I know, but it's not happening for you guys. I appreciate it, though. Thank you for the offer. But as long as you don't have a draft pick for us, I'm not interested.
No. We're gonna save our draft picks for young.
But
people.
regardless, I do want Saquon to go to a team where he can win if he doesn't stay with the Giants. Obviously, I'm a big supporter of Saquon staying with the Giants. I want him there, and I want him on our team, and I think he is the face of our whole team. And Dan, what do you think about that?
I have a certain limit with Saquon. If he doesn't want what the Giants are going to offer him, I am sure they're going to lowball him. I'm okay with him leaving. Unfortunately, as much as I love Saquon, I think it's time to use that money in different spots that we can shore up the team up quicker. Obviously, we're going to miss him offensively. Obviously, the talent is going to be lacking, but I think we could replace him with one or two running backs, either at free agency or in the draft, later rounds in the draft. So as much as I love Saquon, if he doesn't come back, as long as it's not in the NFC East, I'm going to wish him luck and maybe try to draft him in fantasy so I have some rooting interest for him. But yeah, I think it's time, unfortunately, to say goodbye to Saquon.
I feel you. I hear you. I don't want to accept it, but I will. Lucas, Earl, Maurice, what do you guys think?
I think this is a tough one because initially it was reported by Adam Schefter that the Giants weren't going to use, they were unlikely to use the franchise tag and wanted to negotiate with them. But in Schoen's press conference at the Combine, it made it sound like the franchise tag is not out of the question, which makes it sound like if push comes to shove, they'll use it. Well, so I don't know if it's over.
Didn't the deadline already pass?
No, it's coming up. Oh no, it's coming up next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not impossible for it to happen.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening because it's just going to start a war with Saquon. Saquon was such a good soldier last year.
Yep.
I don't see that happening. And honestly, I don't know if we're going to talk about him later, but they could easily use it on McKinney later. So,
well, no, they're using the transition tag on McKinney.
Yeah, nothing official yet, but that was rumored to have it. So, we'll see what happens with that.
I think a good question for you, Dan and Mal, and all Giants fans is: are you content on rebuilding? And if so, I think you have to move on from Saquon. He's 27 years old. We know how much wear and tear that can be on a veteran running back going into the future. So, are you guys content on a rebuild?
I'm gonna let Dan.
Oh, you're gonna let me eating me to the wolves? No, I think with Saquon, obviously we see his talent, but obviously last year stat wise wasn't the best, and he did miss a couple of games again. So I think for the betterment of the growth of the Giants a couple of years down the road would be just cutting bait with Saquon now, unfortunately. And if it means we have to, quote unquote, rebuild, so be it. But I think it would be a quicker retooling.
I agree with that, Dan. And the situation I have with Saquon is I feel like they missed their window when they paid the wrong player the money. And I believe that money should have went to Saquon because of how much juice the team had whenever he touched the ball. I feel like
agreed.
I feel like he was basically the engine that got the team rolling. And I think with them paying the quarterback instead of the running back who was giving the juice to the team, I think it was kind of I wouldn't say a low ball move, but it was one that really just deteriorated the momentum with Saquon, and especially with how he feels about the team. And it could be a possible rebuild with the Giants, but at the same time, if they really want Saquon, they would have paid him from the jump.
Right. I will say this about Saquon. Without a fault, he might be the most loyal athlete of all time. The amount of times he's always been the same way. It's like very Derek Jeter-like. With him, it's just always business-like, and I want to be a Giant for my whole life. And he's saying all the right things, and he could have held out not going to camp, and he showed up the first day of camp. So Saquon, the person, I would love him to be a Giant for life, but hopefully they both find a way. But as Joe Shane said this week, it's really, we have a number in our head, and knowing how it was last year, I don't see it happening again this year, even with the extension of the salary cap.
I just don't understand why, like, okay, what's the difference? I know the years. The years are probably if Saquon. Okay, I guess my thing is in the NBA, and I'm an NBA guy first before I'm a basketball guy. Sometimes you front load a contract or make a big contract that's only 1 to 2 years. The Philadelphia 76ers did that a few years with JJ Redick, as I know Maurice remembers. They paid him big, like over his market value for 1 year because they didn't want to, give him long-term money because he was older. With the increased salary cap, why not pay Saquon 1 year for $18 million or $20 million?
Because that would be making more money than Christian McCaffrey and all that other resources for the team this year would basically be shot. So, last year I didn't mind the Daniel Jones contract and thinking of, all right, year 2 under Dable, maybe we get the better production out of Daniel Jones because we have the contract. If he explodes, it's still a healthy contract. At the end of this year, they have an out, so I didn't hate the Daniel Jones contract. But I do understand what Earl is saying with the whole chemistry of the team. It was obviously a well-calculated risk, and it obviously blew back in our faces, and it looks really bad now. But yeah, good.
I'm sorry. Finish your thought, and then I have a question for you.
At the time of the move, I liked the move because it was an upside type of move. Us making the playoffs, it's a lot harder to sign a quarterback in terms of skyrocketing money. I know $40 million when you really initially see the contract of Daniel Jones, it's really earth-shattering. But I was okay with the upside of the move. But obviously now looking back on it, his second neck injury and a knee injury, I would recommend the Giants pivoting. But that's just me.
So I guess my question is, and Mal has heard me like bust Daniel Jones' chops ever since last offseason.
All the time.
And
But it's funny. He's only lost to you guys once. So
okay, yeah, to us. But I'm not worried about us. I'm looking at him.
We're terrible against everybody else.
Okay, we can get into divisional rival stuff later. Like that's fine. But this is like a serious question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
Because when I did a last offseason, I did a rankings of quarterbacks for the NFL Spin Zone and fan sided, and I had Daniel Jones in the 20s, and Mal was appalled.
All right, see, this is the thing. I would think 15 to 20 going into the season was okay. Mal liked Daniel just a little bit more than I did, but
I did. Okay. I had hope.
Mal likes Daniel just a tad more than I do.
Look. Mal loves any quarterback. Because did she ever tell you what she said on the pod about Tommy Cutlets?
Yeah, we made a joke about it.
Yeah, how she would get a tattoo of his number, right? Mal, was that it? If they beat the Eagles on Christmas Day?
Yes.
Yeah.
But no, my point is this.
Well, I had to buy a Tommy Cutlet jersey.
Outside of 2 seasons ago, when you guys made the playoffs with Daniel Jones.
Right.
I feel like Daniel Jones was always overvalued, and I think he's kind of considering that he was a first-round pick, I think he was a bust. And I don't know I get the playoff run 2 years ago now. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, what gave Giants fans hope that he could actually turn things around? Because I didn't see a lot of flashes. I didn't.
Okay, I think with me personally with Daniel Jones he was the guy showing up to the facility at 6 a.m. He works incredibly hard. Every game that we were in that season, all the games we were 1-score games every time in that season, Daniel Jones, whether it was his feet or he made some solid throws at some of those games. He was in the mix for all those games. Obviously, quarterback, he gets the ball every play. But I thought with another year under Daboll, I thought maybe we can get something going, a little bit more of a passing game going. Obviously, I was clearly wrong, but I thought Daniel Jones did show some glimpses for someone that would watch every single second of every single game. I did see the toughness out of Daniel Jones and someone that I would ride with. So that's where I was with Daniel Jones. I know Mal could back me up with that, watching every second of every game as well. He's easy to root for. I know he's a very hot topic in Giants Twitter and all social media, but at the end of the day, it's about wins and losses, but he is very easy to root for. So that's where I got lost in the Daniel Jones luster. So, yeah, I'm clearly wrong.
No, I'm with you, Dan. Like, really, Daniel Jones, he was so easy to root for, and he gave us a little something. But regardless, I agree with you.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
So, hang on. There's something else that went on with Giants recently, the Darren Waller stuff. Can you guys talk about that?
Yeah, no, so apparently Darren Waller in the beginning of the offseason is contemplating retirement. So it came out today that he was contemplating it, but he's going to come back for the season. And then a couple hours later, according to the New York Post, he still hasn't considered him coming back yet. So
that's confusing. Yeah. That's confusing.
Yeah. There was some sort of mix-up of the sourcing today for whatever reason. I'm coming from the school of, all right, Darren, I understand why you want to retire with your health injury history and everything else like that. I just hope for his sake, if he really already feels this type of way, I would recommend him retiring because it's like feels like your heart's not completely into it. Like, I guess you don't really want to work out in the off season. That's what it seems like.
So I agree with you, Dan. I don't think Darren is totally into it. And at this point, I would recommend he retires. But at the same time, it does suck because he should stay and see what he can do here. Right. But if you're not totally here at this point, this team is not ready at all to just be like, okay, go ahead, whatever.
It was
Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
And it was weird. We would get extra $6 million in cap relief, but we would have $7 million in dead space. So it would be an okay move if the Giants, if he decided to retire today. I know the $7 million of dead cap would suck, but getting the extra $6 million would be a nice relief, especially with the cap situation going on. But with Darren Waller, is just another unfortunate situation. We actually tried to get an offensive piece. He was good for the moment. Unfortunately, between the offensive line not protecting for Daniel, and then when Daniel had time to throw, he underthrew him or just not getting it going. Other than the highlight against the Commanders, the home game against the Commanders, scoring the lone touchdown of his Giant career as to date. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It just doesn't feel like he was a part of the team last year. It was weird. It just didn't feel like, oh, yeah, Darren Waller is a Giant kind of thing for me personally. And then, Darren Waller is on the Giants. Obviously, we all remember the ending of the Bills game. That would probably be my highlight or low light, you could say, of Darren Waller's career as a Giant. So. Sucks because he's very, very talented and he seems like a very genuinely cool dude after fighting his demons. So I hope nothing for the best for him. But if he was to retire, I wouldn't really be crying about it.
Fair enough. But let me go ahead because next team we're going to talk about here in this little segment is the Commanders. And honestly, this probably would have been the week to have our soon-to-be guest Rio on. But
Rio's a good friend of mine. Yeah,
we're going to have him on in about 2 weeks.
Cool.
But because there's a lot of Commanders news, so let's get into this. And I didn't even put everything on there. Like, real quick, FedEx pulled out of the naming rights for the stadium. I think the House of Representatives just passed a bill to redo the stadium in DC. So like that's small stuff, but that's cool. And I'll be interested to see who's going to name the stadium in Maryland now. But let's talk with the big breaking news today that the Commanders are clearly cleaning house of all their older players and players that just did not cut it this season. Logan Thomas is going to get released. Charles Leno Jr., left tackle, going to get released. Center, Nick Gates, going to get released. They're all getting released, and I'm not sure that this is not. There's probably going to be more releases happening. I can't see us keeping Andrew Wiley. He was just so awful for last year, and he was totally an Eric Bieniemy guy, so I don't see him staying. There could be other cuts too, or trades. Who knows? So we'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens. But these moves happened while the team's front brass was in the combine, which makes it clear to me that we're definitely going to be drafting heavy on the offensive line and maybe probably tight end position too. So, and that brings us to free agency. That's another thing with all these waiving, with free agency coming up. It appears that, according to our new GM, Adam Peters, does not appear that anybody's going to be franchise tagged. Not even Cam Curl, which I like Cam Curl, but honestly, he's probably not worth a franchise tag. So if we can get him back, great. If not, we'll move on. But there seems to be a youth movement happening here in DC. So any thoughts on either one of those tidbits of news so far, guys?
Well, it looks like Joshua Harris he's owning a second team that's trying to save cap space. You have anything in mind when it comes to that cap space, Lucas?
And honestly, not at the moment, but anything could change. I'm thinking more or less along the lines of trades. I think trades could definitely be an option here. We'll see. Free agency wise, I'll be honest, I haven't looked at all the available free agents. I don't think we're going to go quarterback wise. I think we're just going to have a QB room of Sam Howell and whoever else. I mean, maybe we bring in a veteran, who knows? But like a veteran that's not going to be compete. Like I think Sam Howell stays. Yeah, I think that in a press conference, Adam Peters said that he likes Sam Howell. Doesn't seem like, and all things are on the table QB wise, which makes it sound like maybe there's a chance that Sam Howell gets another shot. I don't know. That's kind of a tough pill to swallow for me. I'm not saying I would not support the team in that decision, but it's not the decision that I would primarily make.
Why would it be a tough pill to swallow?
Because he had some really high highs last season, but he also had a really bad skid at the end of the year, and I can't ignore that.
It's his first year being the starter.
I get it, and I get the situation surrounding it. I get that, Eric Bieniemy couldn't even get a job in the NFL, so he's back in college. Ron Rivera tried to be a defensive coordinator somewhere else, couldn't get a job. I get all that. And, like, now his offensive line, two of the players on that offensive line are gone, plus his number one tight end, who underperformed. So I get all that. But, and you guys, we said it during the pod last year, I'll say it again. There was something that mentally broke Sam Howell last year. And it's hard for players, especially young players, to bounce back from that. And I don't know if Sam Howell's that. And like I said, I'm willing, if the team wants to go that direction, I'm willing to see that out. However, it is still not my primary option. I would prefer to go with a quarterback. And that segues me into my next point here. That I've been listening to Rio, and he mentioned how Dan Quinn was on a podcast recently. They did a word association with QBs in the top three QBs in the draft. And I can't remember what he said for Drake May, but I remember the other two, because Drake Mays didn't really stick with me all that much. But he said DC when asked about Caleb Williams. But you know what he said when Jaden Daniels' name came up? Game changer. That's all I need to know. The team, I think popular to some reports here. I think the team is really liking Jaden Daniels, and that's who I've been championing him. You guys know this. Jaden Daniels is the ideal fit for the Commanders, in my opinion.
So you want them to draft a quarterback?
I do. I think. I mean, look, how often are you going to have? Yeah, I mean, like you have the second overall pick, and you don't have a clear answer at quarterback. I know Sam Howell has upside, but he also had some very questionable questions about him by the end of the season. So you go with, you know what? And I was talking to Earl about this and Maurice a little bit off the air earlier this week. Worst case scenario, not the worst case, but an interesting scenario, and it kind of happened to San Francisco when Peters was there, is they had Trey Lance, a top tier pick, and then they drafted Brock Purdy, who supplanted him. And who knows, maybe Sam Howell does bounce back and he claims that starting job. And then you have a first overall pick that you can trade that still has pretty good upside, right? Like, there could be worse things. I could live with that scenario if that happens too. So that's just my train of thought. One last thing before
build a line to protect your star toy.
Oh, they're definitely going to do that. They're actually, Rio brought up somebody very interesting. The guy from BYU, who's Penei Sewell's cousin. I'm really looking at him. He seems good. I just can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Yeah, y'all need a line.
I'm looking at him, Zach Frazier. I'm looking at guys. So, one last thing before we move on. We talked about Jamin Davis. He had legal troubles during the beginning of the season. That has finally resolved. He did not get jail time for reckless driving. However, he did get his license suspended, and he had to pay a lot of fines. So, that was just a development there. Hopefully now he can focus on just football. He's a solid linebacker. He's not a superstar. He didn't live up to the hype of being a first round pick, but he's solid, and that's good enough for me. All right, Maurice, not much going on in Eagles land, but something did happen today, right?
Yes. The Eagles released Kevin Byard. We traded for him in the middle of the season for a 5th and 6th round draft pick to the Texans. Not the Texans, the Titans. And didn't really work out well. Didn't work out. No, I think pretty much when he got here, we fell off the cliff, so to speak. So it didn't work out. He was a Philly native. It was cool to see him play here in his hometown. But I think the right move was for Howie to release him. They saved $14 million on a cap, so they have about almost $50 million in cap space going into the offseason. Not nowhere near the Commanders' $90 million or the Patriots.
It's actually $100 million now, thanks to those 3 waivers.
And I think I saw somewhere where the Patriots was like over $100 million as well. So
yeah, they just released somebody too. Who was that?
I'm not sure who it was. J.C. Jackson, I think it was.
Yeah, there we go.
So not nearly as much as that, but for a team that still has a lot of talent, and we have an extra 2nd round draft pick, Howie Roseman has something to work with going into the offseason. So that's pretty much it for the Eagles front. Earl, what's going on in Cowboys Nation?
No coaches at the Combine. Apparently, the head coach, Mike McCarthy, and Mike Zimmer, they decided to stay in Dallas to talk about things on how to better the team going into this upcoming season. This is the second time I've seen Mike McCarthy not show up at the Combine, and was pretty much at that time retooling the offense on the departure of Kellen Moore. Now, this time around, he's working with Mike Zimmer on trying to figure out the defense. And with Mike Zimmer, I would have expected him to be at the Combine to look at some of the prospects, and apparently not. So right now, Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones and Will McClay are doing the work on scouting the guys at the Combine. saw some guys at the combine run, and I'm really looking into linebacker and defensive tackle. Well, defensive line. There's a guy from Penn State on the defensive line, Chop Robinson. He ran a 4.49
Yeah, I
on the
saw.
D
Yeah.
line. And on linebacker, I'm looking at Peyton Wilson. He's a guy that had a ton of injuries and very injury prone, but the guy leaves, he plays like it's his last play. And I saw him running a couple of drills and he ran his 40. He ran a 4.4. And Edgerrin Cooper ran a 4.52. Then the linebacker from Kentucky ran a 4.52 as well. Really looking at the presence of the linebackers because I know that's something that Dallas needs going into this season. And Mike Zimmer needs a traditional linebacker, not a silly hybrid safety playing linebacker. It's insane. It's crazy. But overall, not too much on news. I did get word that Cowboys are look to pick up Trey Lance roster bonus, and that's a $4.25 million, securing a spot on the Dallas roster for this upcoming season. And I know that Jerry Jones talked with Tyron Smith about returning on a small discount deal because Tyron Smith feels like he can still play. Now, that wouldn't take away from going in free agency or the draft, looking to find replacement, get youth on the line. I think that is something that they really got to look into because the offensive line for Dallas is deteriorating. They're aging, and it's time to get some new blood. And I just think with this combine as well as free agency, I think doing their research can really shore that moving forward. But that's all the news I got right now.
Okay, so the Giants mailbag of this week is from Becca, and she is Becca. And so, Dan, we have a question to answer this week, which is, who should the Giants take at number 6?
All right, so number 6, obviously we're not going to play the hypothetical. Are we going to trade up or are we not? If number 6 magically happens and a quarterback falls to us, which right now, as of before the combine ends, doesn't look like it. But if a quarterback was to fall to us, one of the top 3 quarterbacks was to fall to us, one of them. If not, I would hopefully get Neighbors or Dunze so we can shore up a number 1 alpha wide receiver to go with our offense. So we have some sort of piece if we go quarterback in the second round, or believe in Daniel Jones for that one last year. He has one young piece that could be an alpha and start right away. So if a quarterback's not on the board, one of the good wide receivers that are still on the board, I will be happy about.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Totally with you.
So can I chime in for a second, guys? Because I have
Please
an
do.
interesting idea. So I think you guys should go, unless you guys can trade up to 3, because Commanders and Giants are not. I mean, Commanders and the Bears are not trading down that far. But if you guys can move up to 3, then obviously you get a quarterback, whoever's left over, probably Drake May. But if you guys stay at 6, I think going wide receiver is smart. But I think with your second round pick, I think the answer is easy. It's Bo Nix. Let him learn a year behind Daniel Jones. Let him make sure that he's healthy, 100% healthy. And then after Daniel Jones's contract is non-guaranteed next year, that's when you move on to Bo Nix.
Yeah, I don't know. Bo Nix doesn't get me excited. So I'll be completely honest.
Hey Dan, how you feel about Michael Penix?
See, with Michael Penix, I would be a little bit more exciting. Obviously, this week is huge for Michael Penix. I think I would rather Penix than.
There are good reports about his knee coming out. I've saw
that's huge.
Okay.
I think with Penix is I think I've seen a little bit more of like, all right, this guy can be a pro. I'm not a scout, so don't take what I've seen. But when I'm watching the game tape, Bo Nix, for whatever reason, yeah, he was great in Oregon. Excuse me. I just feel I would be a little bit more excited with Penix than I would with Bo Nix, but
That's fair. I just don't know if Penix is going
agree.
to be available in the second round.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Something. I think a team's going to be desperate enough to get nervous about it and be,
and then trade up. Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see him. Maybe it could possibly be us. We have 2 second-round picks, but you never know. Yeah, I don't know. I for whatever weird reason, I have this. I like JJ McCarthy, but I don't think I would take.
He's
him
not going to be available.
I know he's not. I know he's not going to be available. But if he was to be like lagging around, and the Giants want to go back up and get him, I wouldn't hate that either.
What if you guys reached on JJ and got him with the 6th pick? Would you be mad at the Giants?
I wouldn't be exactly thrilled, but
I'm not gonna lie, I would not be happy.
That
wouldn't be okay.
I mean, he's projected 12th, so you could arguably you might be able to even move back a few spots.
But you might be passing up on a worthy weapon.
Yeah. See, the thing with JJ, the whole adage, if you like a guy, you go get the guy, philosophy in that. So I would be like, okay, let Dabes cook kind of thing. But we learned our lesson from Daniel Jones because it was the same scenario with Daniel Jones and the same exact spot, ironically. So I think with JJ, he's the intangible guy. So it's just like, all right, a top 10 pick on him. It might not show right away. Obviously, him being in Michigan the last couple years, people think he just was carried, which obviously looks it, but I think he could be an okay pro. But I would be I wouldn't be jumping up and down that we got JJ McCarthy, but if we were to get him, if he was to fall to us in the second round, which he's not, or we found a way to get back into the first round to get him, I would be okay with it. But yeah, it would be interesting. I think I would rather Dunze or Neighbors to in that situation.
All right, Earl, I think it's time for trivia.
The team trivia question: which 3 players were drafted during the Super Bowl era? The 3 names, I'm going by the first all the way to the third. I have Ed Too Tall Jones in 1974's NFL draft. The next player I have is Troy Aikman from 1989's NFL draft. And then I have Russell Maryland in the 1991 NFL draft, the year I was born.
So Earl, let me ask you this. So on a scale of 1 to 10, because I came up with a question here, how hard of a question do you think this was for Cowboys fans?
For me, I had to do research on Ed Too Tall Jones just to make sure. I'm more familiar with Troy Aikman and Russell Maryland. So they're both pieces that were part of that 3 Super Bowl wins in the 90s. And I know how much, like I had to go back to deep research. I had to talk to my family about it just to make sure, because I know from my knowledge and things, I don't like the Cowboys. I love the Cowboys. And just being able to go back and look at just the style that the Cowboys had back in the 70s. They were called the Doomsday Defense. And Ed Too Tall Jones, he was part of that. He was a really great He was a really great player. And I know that they look for key guys that can help cement a part of the team in some way. He was one of those. Troy Aikman, too. He was the franchise quarterback for the Cowboys. And for him to lead the Cowboys in getting those 3 Super Bowls, hey, Hall of Famer. I think, two of the players are Hall of Famers. I know Russell Maryland isn't, but he was one that was solid on that championship defense for the Cowboys.
Yeah, no, it was actually really fun researching this. I was able to find this, by the way, on Football Reference. Really good website if you want to get into the history of the game, learn that type of stuff. Yeah, no, this was a fun one to research. A lot of our fans, especially, we got the most engagement on Twitter. Not Twitter, sorry. We got the most of our engagement on Facebook. And A lot of, I would say it was a 50-50 split on who got it right, who got it wrong. Most of them got Troy. Some of them got Maryland. Not a lot of them got Too Tall. I think a lot of people said instead of Too Tall, I think they said Lily, or what was his?
Bob Lilly.
Yeah, Bob Lilly. I think that a lot of them said Bob Lilly instead, which is a good guess, but no.
Hey, it was really cool. I like being able to do research on that. Gives me a chance to just step away from today's game and just kind of look back in the past game and just see the different things. Hey, thanks for it, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I'm going to take this next one here, and who's that player? And I was waiting on Mal to get me a player, but I know she was busy with work. So I came up with one myself. So
I know, I'm sorry.
it's okay. It's okay. No, it's good. So,
Who's that football player?
oh my gosh, we need to do soundbite like that. It's Carl Banks. No, it was Carl Banks. We used the 1987 season, his one Pro Bowl season and all pro season for that. I would, it stumped a few people. A few people got it. A few people got stumped. We were able to stump our guest, our former guest, C. Webb, because at first he thought I was talking about Lawrence Taylor. So that was fun. Mal and Dan, how hard do you think of a question this was just based off one season stats?
I mean, you had to think, and then it would have been too easy to have LT as your main question.
Yeah.
And I know Harry Carson retired that year, so I didn't think it was going to be him. And Carl Banks is just a big fixture in Giant culture, him being the color guy for the radio broadcast. So it was I went with a good guess with Carl Banks.
And both his number and Lawrence Taylor numbers are almost identical because Lawrence Taylor had 56 and Carl Banks had 58.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't, it was fun because honestly, and this is how I'm gonna give behind the curtain look here, because like I said, I didn't hear from Mal and I wanted to get it out before it was too late in the day, and so I just went on to Football Reference, chose a year, I went to all pro players and all Pro Bowl player selection for the Giants on their team page on that website. And I just chose a random year, and I'm like, okay, who has one? There we go. That works. I'll go with them. And it just ended up being a good one because I was like, oh, he was a part of the championship run. That's cool. Okay, I think this will be fun. So yeah, that was fun to research a little bit again.
His college, he played football at Michigan State University.
Right.
Absolutely.
That brings me back to an era of NFC East football where all four of our defenses were monsters, man.
I mean, there's a reason why they called us the NFC Beast, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
That was pretty cool. All right. Speaking of the NFC, we still got to get to our poll question, which our Eagles one was at last weekend. So I'm going to let Maurice take that one.
All right, so the poll question of the week was, will Hassan Reddick begin next season in a Philadelphia Eagles uniform? And on Twitter/X, 75% said no, 25% said yes. Now, I agreed with the no. I said on this podcast last week, it's probably going to be in their best move to move him when they can. If they can get something back from him, I mean, that's great. It seems like it's kind of hard to trade these type of players in the NFL right now for some reason. So if they can get a draft pick back for him, that'd be great. What y'all think about it?
It'll be interesting. I think if a trade happens, I suspect it will happen within the next month. I don't see this dragging out.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be a draft day trade.
It could. Yeah, it very well could be. What round draft pick would you guys give up for Reddick?
A high third or a late second?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I'd give up that for sure.
Yeah,
you guys agree with that?
He's a giant killer.
Yeah.
So he's a giant killer.
I would give up a third.
I would say a third or a fourth.
Yeah, So we're all thinking around the third round. That seems fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah, he's looking for top 10 rusher money, and I don't know.
Well,
I don't know if he's going to get it.
Let's talk about this. What team would be a good fit for Reddick? Does anybody have any ideas?
Baltimore.
Oh my God, man! Imagine him with Baltimore.
Woo! Ravens, baby.
Oh, come on now.
I got no shame.
No, you really don't.
I could see either Baltimore or Seattle.
He would basically replace Clowney.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Would he do the trying to think of the team. Do the Rams have enough cap space to get him?
I don't think so.
No Rams, Baltimore all the way.
Okay.
We're winning a bowl.
But Lucas, it wouldn't be too bad if he did go to the Rams, but I could see in the draft the Rams actually finding a player like him, but it would be Chop Robinson from Penn State.
Yeah,
they finally do have a first round pick, so that's nice for them. I don't think they're going to trade it. We'll see what happens.
They do have one of the best front offices in the league, though, being able to spot talent. For whatever reason, I wish the Giants were able to do that. Like, we don't have first round picks. Don't worry, we'll pick up Puka Nacua, and then he'll be like a mob boss. So.
Dan, the wildest thing with the Rams is that they're not a couple years off of just winning the Super Bowl, going all in.
Thing.
Like they lost everything, and then just slowly started rebuilding that team, and then hitting lightning in the bottle with Puka, and everything. That team is uprising. It looks like a complete stacked team.
Yeah, in all seriousness, like Puka, you could make the argument that Puka should have won Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, you can make that.
I could agree with that.
Definitely.
Yeah, because there was time missed by the eventual winner, C.J. Stroud. Which, by the way, I just want to say, me and Earl called it. We thought he was the best quarterback coming in last year, rookie-wise, and that was proven right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bryce Young didn't look so good.
I mean, to be fair, terrible offensive line, no weapons. I mean, if Adam Thielen's your number one, you have an issue.
Right. One of my all-time favorite last sleeper picks. I know I'm not the only one, but thankfully I got him in the last round in fantasy. The first year he broke out, I was like, all right, awesome, and it was a keeper league, so I kept him as a last round pick for like whatever the length of that contract was.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well,
excuse me.
Before we wrap things up, Dan, did you want to talk about anything that we didn't get a chance to talk about up to this point?
No, I'm just excited that free agency is going to come about. Overall, the whole division, obviously seeing what you guys do for your respective teams, and like what do we got to look forward to in the NFC East next couple of years, especially with our division. I'm not saying us or the Commanders can win a division, but it's really interesting to see. We haven't had a back-to-back division winner since 2004. I was in high school the last time the Eagles went back-to-back winning the division.
Oh,
so
I was
in middle school.
That's what I'm saying. I was a junior, senior in high school. So that's just goes to show you how crazy that was. So
it was looking good for us.
Started middle school too.
It was looking good for us, Dan, for the first 11 weeks.
Yeah, well, you guys, yeah. I don't know what you guys. I don't know. That was epic. And
They figured them out.
And Maurice, I forgot I mentioned this on the agenda, but AJ Brown did come out and say that he's not planning on leaving. He has no beef with anybody, right?
Yeah, that whole story was concocted by Sports Talk Radio here in Philadelphia. And they need something to talk about to give viewers a listen. There's nothing going on with AJ Brown.
Maurice, you got a taste of what I've been going through since I could form words in my mouth.
Yeah, AJ's cool, man. I actually appreciate the fact that he was transparent and went on a radio station here in Philly and said, what was going on and everything's cool. I mean, they would be Hollywood would be stupid to trade AJ Brown.
Yeah, I fully expect AJ to be back next year for sure.
Yeah, he better get his touches.
Top 5. What are you trying to say, Earl?
No, I'm saying he gets your team going. He's your all-star, your X factor.
So,
Get him going.
Devontae's not bad. I mean, don't get me wrong. We have a great 1-2 at receiver. I mean, it and I've said this before. It really comes down to Jalen. I mean, I don't want to go on a tangent now, but it comes down to Jalen and our new OC, Earl's favorite offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore.
False. Didn't happen. Not existent.
Well, hang on. Now that we're talking about Jalen Hurts, because we had C-Web on the pod multiple times.
Man, he's been going in on
is
Hurts,
a big
man.
Jalen Hurts hater. You know, he calls him mid all the time. What is your opinion on Jalen Hurts as another Giants fan?
I mean, I find it funny for someone that loves and supports Daniel Jones like he does. I wouldn't call Jalen Hurts a mid. I don't get Giant fans that do it. I know the tush push is a big bone of content with a lot of people in the NFL.
You mean the brotherly shove?
Brotherly shove, tush push, whatever you guys want to call it. That play, yeah. But honestly, that dude went off in the Super Bowl. I would never see Daniel Jones doing that in the Super Bowl. Granted, he did have a costly fumble, but I don't know, man. Would I think he was worth the money he got, but it was just his time to get paid, and he took him to a Super Bowl. So, I think Jalen Hurts is a true bona fide winner. Can he be better with certain throws? Obviously, he's not the perfect player, but I would take Jalen Hurts on my team every day and twice on Sunday. I know what I'm getting out of him. So
fair analysis. Respect.
All right. Interesting. Okay. Well, on that note, Maurice, how about you go ahead and wrap things up for us?
Yeah, this has been a fun episode. I want to thank Dan for jumping on with us again.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, guys. Anytime you guys need me, I'm always a phone call away. Like I say, I talk to Mal daily, so I'm a text away. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah. All right. So we truly thank you all for listening to our podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. Also, make sure to follow us on Twitter or X, Instagram, and Facebook at 13_rings podcast. Until next time, have a good day.
Good night, everyone.
See ya.
Blessing.